What's the worst thing you can find on your wedding day? It's not a groom with cold feet. It's an empty hanger. A single, padded satin hanger, swinging slowly in the closet where my wedding dress should have been. My dream dress. The one I had sewn myself, bead by bead, stitch by stitch, for 8 solid months. It was gone. And the only thing left in its place was a tiny, gold foil-wrapped chocolate on the floor. Her favorite. That was the moment I knew. My sister Mia had just declared war. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. The screen lit up with Mia's name. I didn't want to look. Already knew. But I had to. The text was just 2 lines. This looked too good on me to pass up. We're eloping. Don't be mad. A winky face. She left me a winky face. No call. No apology. Just pixels on a bright screen stealing my future. I sat down on the floor, the satin hanger still in my hand. The silence in the room was deafening. My wedding was in 6 hours. Have you ever been erased? Pushed aside so quietly that you start to wonder if you're even real. My name is Christy Davis, and this is the story of how my golden child sister didn't just steal my dress. She tried to steal my life. But what she did next, after the wedding, after the elopement, that's the part no one would believe. Stick with me to the end because the revenge I built wasn't just quiet. It was couture. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. And hit subscribe because this story is just getting started. I didn't cry. The tears wouldn't come. Instead, a strange, cold calm settled over me. I stood up, walked to my desk and opened my laptop. The first call was to the caterer. Hi, this is Christy Davis. We need to cancel. Yes, I know we lose the deposit. Blick. The second call was to the venue. A family emergency. Yes, a terrible one. Blick. The third was to my fiancé. Ex-fiancé. I didn't even know what to call him. My thumb hovered over his name. What do you even say? Hi, honey. My sister stole my dress so she could marry your brother. Oh yes, I forgot to mention that part. This wasn't the first time. Started small. When I was 16, I saved for 6 months for the perfect prom earrings. They were silver with tiny blue stones. The night of the dance, I went to put them on. And they were gone. I saw them an hour later, glittering in Mia's ears as she walked downstairs. When I tried to protest, my mom just smiled and fixed Mia's hair. Don't be selfish, Christy, she said, her voice soft. They just look better on her. You understand. I didn't understand. I just learned to hide my jewelry. When I was 18, I won the State Design Award. I had built a dress entirely from recycled materials, scraps of denim and old silk maps. It was my masterpiece. I remember holding the blue ribbon, my name printed in gold, waiting for my dad to say he was proud. He just nodded and turned back to the TV. That's nice, honey, he said. Just don't get your hopes up. It's a hard business. A week later, Mia won a local Cutest Smile contest, and my parents threw a giant party, complete with balloons and a banner on the house. By the time I got my scholarship to the Design Institute, the pattern was set. I was the practical one. Mia was the dreamer. My scholarship was nice, but Mia was launching her influencer brand. My parents sat me down. Christy, we need you to help Mia, Mom said. Just do her logo and build her website. You're so good at that stuff. I spent all summer building her brand for free, while she went to parties. My talent wasn't a gift. It was just a family resource like the car or the bank account. My mother always said Mia was the heart of the family. She was the light, the joy, the one everyone noticed. Maybe she was. But I was the structure. I was the beams in the walls, the foundation under the floor. Nobody ever notices the foundation. They just walk all over it. They don't see the cracks forming. They don't see the rot. They don't see that the whole house is about to collapse. That morning, looking at that empty hanger, I finally understood. The foundation was done holding everyone else up. I found my peace in the attic, my little studio under the eaves. It smelled like cedar and old patterns. My only companion was Matilda. She was my grandmother's dress form, An antique body of dark velvet and scarred wood. I got her when I was 12. I ran my hand over her worn, pinned cushion neck. This was where I'd draped my first pattern. This was where I'd pinned the scraps for my award-winning dress. And this was where I'd spent 8 months pinning the lace for my wedding. Matilda had seen it all. That was the moment I stopped asking for them to see me. I stopped waiting for permission to be the main character in my own life. I would build my recognition myself, stitch by stitch. Picked up my phone. I still had one more call to make. But as I unlocked the screen, a new notification popped up. It wasn't a text. It was a payment alert. A $5,000 charge. From a honeymoon resort. In my name. The text from Mia came 1 second later. The honeymoon is amazing. But we're a bit over budget. I told the front desk you'd cover the bill. My blood didn't boil. Turned to ice. I told the front desk you'd cover the bill. The text message glowed on my phone, burning into my eyes. She didn't just steal my dress. She didn't just steal my wedding day. Now she was stealing my money. My work. That $5,000 was the deposit I'd saved for a new studio space. It was everything I had. She was poolside, sipping a drink someone else paid for, while I was sitting on a cold floor, surrounded by the ruins of my life. She thought I would just cry and pay it. She had no idea who I was. I looked at the $5,000 alert. I looked at her winky face. Then I stood up, walked to my desk, and did the one thing she never expected. I didn't call the bank to report the fraud. I didn't text her back a single word. I didn't scream. I just pressed the power button on my phone and held it down. The screen went black. The silence in the room was total. It was just me and Matilda, my grandmother's old dress form. For the first time in my life, there were no more incoming messages. No more demands. I was finally terrifyingly free. Most people would crumble. They would call their mom, their dad, their friends. But I already knew what my mother would say. "Christy, honey," her voice would coo. "Just pay it. It's already done. Don't ruin her happiness just because you're upset." My happiness was always the price for hers. I wasn't going to pay it anymore. I wasn't going to let them write this story. I walked over to my bookshelf and pulled out a thick, leather notebook. Not my sketchbook. This one was different. This was my real book. The one no one had ever seen. I opened it to a blank page. The paper was thick and creamy. I took my favorite pen, the one I used for final designs. At the top of the left page I wrote one word: debts. On the right page I wrote another: assets. But I wasn't writing about money. Under debts, I wrote Mia's name. I wrote my mom's name. I wrote my dad's. I listed every stolen earring, every missed party, every free logo I designed for them, every "Don't be selfish, Christy." The list filled the entire page. My hand was shaking just a little. Not with sadness. With focus. Then I turned to the assets page. What did I have? I didn't have my dress. I didn't have my wedding. I didn't have my $5,000. I looked at my hands. They knew how to sew. I looked at my studio. It was filled with fabric. Rolls and rolls of the finest silk, imported lace, and satin. All the materials I'd bought for the 5 bridesmaids' dresses and my own. I looked at Matilda, my dress form. I had my skill. I had my story. And I had a studio full of fuel. This was not a bankruptcy. This was a hostile takeover. I finally turned my phone back on. But I didn't check my texts. I didn't look at the missed calls that I knew were piling up. I went straight to my contacts and found a number I hadn't called in months. It was for a woman named Maria. She runs the downtown women's shelter. They help women who have to leave their homes in the middle of the night. Women who have nothing but the clothes on their backs. Women who, like me, were starting over with nothing. Their annual fundraising gala was in 3 weeks. I'd meant to donate a gift basket. I had a much better idea now. Maria picked up on the second ring. "Christy, is everything okay?" Her voice was warm but tired. "Maria," I said, and my own voice sounded strange, like a wire pulled tight. "I have a donation for the gala. A new one." She was quiet for a second. Christy, we'd love a basket, but the auction list is already printed. It's not a basket, I cut in. I'm donating a 5-piece couture collection. All the materials from my cancelled wedding. I'm going to call it the Reclamation Collection. There was a long, dead silence on the other end of the line. I thought she might have hung up. Christy, she said finally, and her voice was different. Harper. What happened? I just said it. My sister stole my dress. And my fiancé's brother. And now she wants me to pay for her honeymoon. Maria didn't say, I'm sorry. She didn't say, oh no. She said one thing I will never forget. So you're not burning the fabric. You're weaponizing it. Smiled. It was the first time I'd smiled all day. I'm not just giving you dresses, Maria. I'm giving you a story. And I want you to sell it to the highest bidder. Maria agreed. The plan was set. 3 weeks. I had 3 weeks to turn the worst day of my life into the biggest moment of my career. The second I hung up, I grabbed my sharpest shears. I walked over to the bolt of silk I'd bought for Mia's maid of honor dress. It was a beautiful, soft blush color. Her favorite. I held the cold steel scissors over the fabric. All the years of being quiet, of being the nice one, of hiding my jewelry. It all rushed up. I made the first cut. The slice of the blades through the silk was the loudest, most beautiful sound I had ever heard. I wasn't just cutting fabric. I was cutting the ties. I was cutting them out. I stayed up all night, not with tears, but with a pencil and my sketchbook. I wasn't just sewing. I was weaving. I was weaving a new narrative. By dawn, my studio floor was covered in scraps of blush pink silk and ivory lace. And my notebook was full. 5 designs. 5 dresses. Each one telling a piece of my story. Each one a thread in my revenge. And the centerpiece, the final dress. It was a design so bold, so shocking I knew it would destroy them. The Reclamation Collection. I wrote the words in big, sharp letters on the first page of my sketchbook. It wasn't just a name. It was a promise. It was a mission. I had 21 days until the gala. 21 days to turn the scraps of my humiliation into a masterpiece. I started with the fabric I'd bought for Mia's maid of honor dress. That soft blush pink silk. Her favorite color. I put my scissors to it. But I didn't just cut. Tore it. I shredded the silk into long raw strips. This first dress wouldn't be soft. It wouldn't be nice. It would be the story of a promise being ripped apart. I didn't sleep for 3 days. I just worked. My studio became a hurricane of thread, fabric, and black coffee. My fingers were raw. At one point, the needle of my sewing machine went right through my fingernail. I didn't even stop. I just wrapped it in a bandage and kept going. Every time my back ached, I thought of that $5,000 charge. Every time my eyes burned, I saw that winky face emoji. The anger, the pain, the years of being pushed aside. I was sewing it all into the seams. This wasn't dressmaking. This was a battle. I kept my phone off, plugged into the wall in the kitchen. I knew what was happening. I could feel the vibrations, even from the other room. A storm of texts and voicemails was piling up. Christy, call your mother. Christy, Mia is worried. Christy, stop being so dramatic, it's just a dress. They thought I was having a tantrum. They thought I was the one who needed to apologize. They had no idea I was being strategic. They were waiting for me to break. They didn't know I was building. The longer they waited, the stronger my collection was getting. On the 5th day, Maria, the shelter director, came by. My studio was a disaster. Fabric scraps covered the floor like a carpet. Patterns were pinned to the walls like maps of a war. I was on the floor, hand-stitching pearls onto a bodice. Early looked like a ghost. Maria didn't say anything. She just walked over to the first dress, the one made from Mia's shredded pink silk. It was hanging on a form. It was raw, powerful, and looked like it had been through a fight. Maria reached out and touched the torn fabric. "My," she said, her voice low. "You weren't kidding." I looked up at her, my needle still in my hand. What do you mean? Maria smiled a small sad smile. This isn't a dress, Christy. This is a confession. She looked at the other dress forms, still empty. This is a good start. But you're telling a big story. You need more voices. I was confused. Maria, I only have 2.5 weeks. She nodded, already pulling out her phone. I know. I'm calling a friend. I could hear her talking low. Yes, it's that time. I've got one. She's a fighter. She hung up and looked at me. Her name is Anna. She's a jeweler. Anna arrived an hour later. She was small, with intense eyes and hands stained black from her work. She didn't say hello. She just walked in and looked at the dress. Then she looked at my sketches pinned to the wall. She pointed to a design I'd drawn for a bodice. This, she said. This cage you drew. I can make it. She opened her bag and poured a pile of metal scraps onto my work table. It was a pile of broken gold wedding bands and old tarnished silver. People sell these for cash when things end, she said. I buy them. I give them a new life. While Anna went back to her studio to start melting down the gold, I started on the second dress. This one was harder. It was my dress. The lace I had imported from France. The ivory silk I had cried over. I held the fabric in my hands, and it was so heavy. It was full of my dreams. Couldn't cut it. I couldn't tear it. I looked at Matilda, my grandmother's dress form, and I felt the tears finally come. I was about to give up. But then I heard my grandmother's voice in my head. Never let good fabric go to waste, she'd say. Especially on a bad memory. I wouldn't destroy my dress. I would liberate it. I took my shears and cut the long, traditional train right off. I cut the high, modest neckline. I cut the long sleeves. I was freeing it. I was turning this symbol of a good girl, wedding into a sharp, powerful high-fashion gown. A dress that said, I am the main event. I took the train I just cut, all that beautiful expensive lace, and draped it over Matilda. And that's when I had the idea for the final dress. Fifth one. Oh, it was perfect. And it was terrible. For the next 2 weeks we worked. My attic studio became a headquarters. A war room. Anna would be on one side. Her small torch hissing as she melted broken rings into a delicate, beautiful golden cage for the third dress. I would be at my machine sewing seams. The fourth dress was a dark, midnight blue velvet. I called it the night after, for all the tears and secrets kept in the dark. Maria would stop by with food, telling us stories of the women at the shelter. We were a tiny factory of forgotten women, building our own justice. But the fifth dress, I kept the fifth dress hidden, even from Anna, even from Maria. I worked on it only at night when I was alone. I used the last, most precious piece of my gown, the veil. But I also used something else. Something I'd found in Mia's room right after she left. Something she'd forgotten in her hurry. Small black notebook. This dress was not for the auction. This dress was not for charity. This dress was a message just for her. And as I took the final stitch, I heard my phone buzz. It was a text from my mother. The gala is tomorrow. Stop this nonsense. You are embarrassing us. That text from my mom. You are embarrassing us. That word, embarrassing, hit me like a stone. They weren't embarrassed when Mia stole my wedding. They weren't embarrassed when she charged $5,000 to my card. They were only embarrassed when I refused to be quiet. When I refused to pay for my own humiliation. My phone had been buzzing for days. My dad, my aunt, all saying the same thing. Just call your sister. Just fix this. You're tearing the family apart. As if I was the one holding the scissors. But I wasn't just holding scissors. I was holding a needle and thread. My hands were shaking. Not from fear. From pure exhaustion. I hadn't slept in what felt like a month. My little attic studio was a sea of pins, fabric scraps, and empty coffee cups. I walked over to Matilda, my grandmother's old dress form. I just put my hand on her worn velvet shoulder. The velvet was soft, but the wood underneath was scarred from 100 years of pins. Just like me. I leaned my forehead against her. Just one more day, Matilda, I whispered. Help me get through one more day. She was the only one in my family who had never let me down. The door to my studio buzzed. It was Maria, the shelter director. She came in carrying a big cardboard box. The smell of hot coffee and fresh donuts filled the room. I hadn't even realized it was morning. She looked at the dark circles under my eyes. She looked at the 5 dresses, now standing in a row, gleaming in the early light. She didn't say, "You look terrible." She just pushed a warm coffee cup into my hand. "It's the day," she said, her voice full of energy. "The day we show them what we're made of." Maria walked past the first 4 dresses, her eyes wide. She was in awe. Then she saw the 5th dress. The one I kept covered in a sheet. The secret one. "Christy," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You said 5. I only see 4. I shook my head. "The 5th one. It's different. It's not part of the collection." Maria looked confused. "But it's the centerpiece, isn't it? The one you're going to show last." I took a deep breath. "No. The collection is for the auction. The 5th dress is for me." Maria frowned. "Christy, what did you do?" I pulled the sheet off. "The dress." It wasn't a dress. It was a nightmare. It was made from my white wedding veil, but I had dyed it. Not a solid color. It was stained, blotchy, in shades of dirty gray and blush pink, like spilled wine and old tears. And all over the veil, I had hand-stitched words. Sharp, angry words in black thread. Words from Mia's secret notebook. Words like useless, boring, jealous. Words she had written about me. Maria stepped back, her hand flying to her mouth. "Christy, what is this?" "You asked me what I was making," I said, my voice hoarse. "This is it. The other 4 dresses are the reclamation. This one. This one is the receipt. It's the proof. It's all the quiet things she said, all the little cuts." Maria just stared. "You can't. You're not going to show that, are you?" I just looked at her. They said I was embarrassing them. They have no idea what embarrassing is. Just then my phone buzzed. A new text. It wasn't from my mom. It was from Mia. The first message from her since the elopement. My heart stopped. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. What could she possibly want now? More money. To tell me I'd ruined her life. I opened the text. It was a photo. Selfie. Mia in my wedding dress. But she wasn't smiling. She was at an airport. The dress was torn at the hem and stained with mud. The text underneath just said, "I heard about your little art project. You think you're so smart. I'm coming home. We need to talk. Coming home. Today. The day of the gala." Oh, this was not good. This was a new, terrible twist. I couldn't breathe. She was coming. She was going to be here tonight. She was going to try and stop me. I looked at the dresses. I looked at Maria. "She's not going to win," I said. My voice was steel. I went to my desk and pulled out 5 simple cream-colored cards. This was my last act. This was the final touch. I wasn't just writing a price tag on them. I was writing their story. For the first dress, the shredded pink one, I wrote, "For the girl who was told to be nice." For the second, my own liberated gown. For the woman who chose herself. Anna, the jeweler, arrived right after. She was holding a black velvet box. "It's done," she said. She opened it. It was the golden cage for the 3rd dress. It was made of all those melted-down broken wedding rings. It wasn't a cage anymore. It was a set of wings. A breastplate of golden feathers, strong and beautiful. "It's not a prison," Anna said, her dark eyes shining. "It's armor." We attached it to the 3rd dress. It was perfect. It was the dress for the woman who was finally safe. We packed all 4 dresses with trembling hands. Maria and Anna took the 4 auction dresses to the gala. I stayed behind. I had one last thing to do. I had to get the receipt dress ready. I had to get myself ready. My phone buzzed again. It was Mia. Landed. My way. Mom told me the hotel. Don't you dare start without me. My blood went cold. She wasn't just coming. She was coming to the gala. She wanted a fight. She wanted an audience. And I stood there in my wrecked studio, holding the dress made of her own secret words. Well, if she wanted an audience, I was going to give her one. I stood in my wrecked studio, my hands shaking. Mia was coming. Not just coming, she was here. She wanted a fight. She wanted to yell and cry and twist the story until she was the victim, and I was the monster. She thought I would hide. She thought I would be embarrassed. I looked at the simple, sharp, black dress I had laid out for myself. It was my armor. I wasn't going to hide. I was the main event. I grabbed the garment bag that held the receipt, the dress made of her secret, hateful words. I had one more dress to deliver. If Mia wanted an audience, she had no idea what a real audience looked like. The gala was at a huge, glittering hotel. All glass and gold lights. Felt like another world. People in beautiful gowns and tuxedos were laughing, holding drinks. They had no idea about the war that was about to happen. I walked through the lobby, holding the garment bag. I felt like a soldier carrying a secret weapon. I didn't feel beautiful. Felt necessary. I wasn't there for a party. I was there to finish a story. And I could feel it in my bones. She was already here. I could feel her like a storm just off the coast, just waiting to hit. I found Maria in the chaotic backstage area. Models were rushing around, covered in makeup. Maria saw me and her face flooded with relief. Christy, we're here. We were so worried. Then she saw the black garment bag in my hand. Her eyes went wide. Is that? It's a precaution, I said. Just in case. Just then, a woman with a press pass and a bright, reporter smile pushed through. Are you the designer? I'm Sarah from the City Lifestyle blog. Maria told me all about your wonderful donation. It's just so sweet. Sweet. She thought this was sweet. She had no idea. It's just so generous, Sarah gushed, to turn a cancelled wedding into something so positive for charity. What an inspiration. She saw me as a poor, sad victim. A nice girl doing a nice thing. She wasn't a witness. She was just another person seeing the wrong story. Maria, I said, ignoring the reporter. Where are they? Where are my dresses? I needed to see them. I needed to touch them. I needed to remember what I was fighting for before I had to face my sister. Maria led me to the wings of the stage. And there they were. The 4 dresses. My reclamation collection. They weren't just dresses anymore. They were warriors. The shredded pink one. The golden winged armor. The dark velvet night after. They were beautiful. They were angry. They're about to go on, Maria whispered. The lights in the ballroom went down. A spotlight hit the stage. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would break my ribs. Any second now. Any second Mia would walk in. I scanned the darkness. Where was she? The auctioneer started. He was selling a trip to Napa, a boat. Boring. The crowd was polite. Then Maria walked onto the stage. Our next item, she said, her voice shaking just a little, is special. It's a story. We call it the Reclamation Collection. The reporter Sarah was standing next to me now, taking notes, looking a little bored. Charity auctions are always the same, she muttered. Then the first model walked out in the shredded pink dress. The music started. It wasn't a song. It was a heartbeat. The crowd went silent. The model didn't walk like a model. She walked like a fighter. The dress, with its raw, torn edges, moved like a living thing. Sarah, the reporter, stopped writing. Her pen just froze over her notepad. She looked up, really looked up at the dress. She saw the story. She saw the raw, shredded silk. My God, she whispered, pulling out her phone. That's not sweet. That's rage. She hit the record button on her phone's video camera. The witness was finally awake. As the next model came out, the one in my own liberated wedding gown, Sarah was filming everything. She wasn't just a blogger. She was a hunter. She moved past me right to the edge of the stage, her phone held high. She was capturing the gasps from the crowd. She was capturing the third dress, with Anna's golden armor, as it glittered under the lights. She whispered into her phone, "I'm at the Women's Shelter Gala, and you will not believe what I am seeing. This isn't a fashion show. This is a declaration of war." The bids started flying. The auctioneer was stunned. These weren't charity bids. These were hungry bids. People weren't just buying dresses. They were buying the story. $10,000. $20,000. Maria was backstage with me and we were both crying. "You did it, Christy," she whispered. "You did it." The final dress, the velvet one, sold for a record-breaking sum. The crowd was on its feet, applauding. It was over. I had won. I felt all the air go out of my lungs. I had turned my pain into a new future for that shelter. The auctioneer was still trying to talk over the applause. Maria grabbed me in a hug. "We did it. It's over." But I knew it wasn't. I knew this was just the halftime show. And right on cue, the main doors at the back of the ballroom slammed open. Blim. The applause died, replaced by 100 confused gasps. And there she was, standing in the doorway under the spotlight. Mia. She was wearing my wedding dress, torn, muddy and stained. And she was smiling. "Don't stop the party on my account," she yelled. "I'm the one you really want to see." The music didn't just stop. Died. The applause, the laughter, the clinking glasses, all of it vanished in a single sharp gasp. 100 wealthy, beautifully dressed people turned as one. And there, in the grand ballroom doorway, stood my sister, Mia. A nightmare in white. Her hair was a matted, wet mess. My wedding dress, my dress, was ripped at the shoulder, and the entire bottom was black with mud and something that looked like engine grease. She looked like she'd been dragged through a swamp. But her eyes were on fire. "I'm the one you really want to see," she yelled. And I knew she wasn't just talking to the crowd. She was talking to me. My blood didn't just turn to ice. Froze solid. This was her plan. This was her grand finale. She knew I was a designer. She knew this was my world. And she had come, in my ruined masterpiece, to burn my world down. She took a step, then another, stumbling forward. Her face, which I knew was perfectly fine an hour ago, was crumpled up in a mask of fake tears. "Christy," she wailed, her voice cracking. "Christy, how could you?" She pointed a shaking, dirty finger at the models, who were still frozen on the stage. "How could you do this to our family? How could you do this to me?" The crowd was a sea of confused faces. They were murmuring. Who was this girl? What was happening? And then I saw her. Sarah. The reporter. She wasn't by the stage anymore. She was halfway down the main aisle. Her phone was up. She wasn't just filming. She was live streaming. I could see the little red live icon in the corner of her screen. "Oh Mia. You have no idea what you just walked into. You thought you were just crashing a party. You didn't know you were stepping onto a stage, with the whole world watching." "Christy, where are you?" Mia cried, looking around wildly. "I know you're here. Stop hiding." I wasn't hiding. I was waiting. I took a deep breath, smoothed the front of my simple black dress, and stepped out from the darkness of the wings. The bright white spotlight that had been on the models swung over and hit me. Blick. Just like that, I was on stage too. The room went silent again. It was just us, the two sisters. The spotlight was on me. Mia was in the doorway. And the whole room was holding its breath. The second she saw me, her face changed. The fake tears vanished for one split second, and I saw her. I saw the real Mia. The one I'd known my whole life. Her eyes narrowed with pure black hate. Then just as fast the tears were back. "There you are," she screamed, and her voice was a weapon. You monster. You ruined my wedding. You ruined everything." A gasp went through the crowd. She had called me a monster. And she was the one wearing the stolen dress. The logic was so twisted it was almost brilliant. I was bringing it back, she shouted, and now she was walking down the aisle, right toward the stage. People had to pull their chairs in to let her pass. It got a little dirty, so what? It's just a dress. Just a dress. The words hit me harder than a slap. All those months, all those stitches, all those nights I stayed up, pouring my soul into that lace. Just a dress. And you. She was at the foot of the stage now, looking up at me like I was a queen she was about to overthrow. You did this. You made a freak show out of my happiness. All because I was finally happier than you. Before I could say a word, Maria, the shelter director, stepped forward. She grabbed the auctioneer's microphone. Her voice boomed, shaking with pure, cold anger. "Excuse me," she said. The room snapped to attention. "This freak show, as you call it, this freak show, just raised over $50,000 for women who had to flee their homes with nothing. Not even a dirty dress." The crowd erupted in applause. Maria had just won them back. I could have kissed her. Mia was not done. "Oh, of course," Mia yelled, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Hiding behind charity. How perfect, Christy. You always were the good one. Always making me look bad." She was talking to me but playing to the crowd. "Well, if you're so good, Christy, why did you steal $5,000 from me?" "What?" My head snapped up. The applause stopped. "I stole from her." Sarah the reporter was now 5 feet away from Mia. Her camera lens zoomed in, capturing every lie. I used her card by accident." Mia cried, and the fake tears were Oscar-worthy now. "It was saved in the computer. I told her I would pay her back. And she froze my accounts. She called the bank and reported me. My own sister. She left me stranded in a foreign country. With no money. No way to get home. All over a stupid dress." The room was silent. I looked at their faces. Pity. The confusion. She'd done it. In 30 seconds, she had turned me from a hero into a cold, cruel villain. I was losing. I looked at Mia in all her muddy, lying glory. I looked at the confused faces in the crowd. I looked at Sarah's camera, which was now pointed right at me, waiting for my answer. What could I say? No, she stole from me. It would be a he said, she said fight. Family squabble. And I would lose. Mia smiled, a tiny, triumphant little smile. She thought she had won. I stood there for a long second. Then I turned my back on her, and on the whole crowd, and walked back into the darkness of the wings. "Yeah, walk away, Christy," Mia screamed. "Run away. Just like you always do." The crowd murmured. I was running. But I wasn't running away. I was going to get my receipt. "Run away, Christy. Run away. Just like you always do." Mia's voice was a victory cry, echoing through the ballroom. She thought she'd won. The crowd murmured, looking at my back as I walked into the dark wings. They thought I was a coward. They thought I was beaten. But I wasn't running. I was reloading. I walked calmly, my steps sure. I wasn't heading for the exit. I was heading for the black garment bag I had tucked behind a speaker. I felt a strange, cold calm. The main event was just about to start. Sarah, the reporter, was confused. Her live stream was capturing the world's most awkward family drama. She was about to cut the feed. The story was over, right? The victim had been revealed. The villain had run off stage. But then she saw me. I was walking back out. I wasn't crying. My face was set. And I was holding something. Another dress bag. Sleek black one. Sarah's eyes went wide. This wasn't an ending. This was a plot twist. She jammed her phone forward, getting closer to the stage. "Folks," she whispered into her mic, "I don't think this is over." Mia was in her glory. She was the center of attention, just like she always wanted. She had stumbled into the middle of the dance floor, sobbing into her hands as 2 wealthy women tried to comfort her. I just don't understand why she hates me so much, she cried, her voice carrying. I just wanted my sister. And she did this. She was painting the perfect picture. She was the poor, misunderstood victim. She had won the crowd. And just as she was taking her victory breath, I stepped back into the light. The spotlight hit me. I was back. I was standing in the center of the stage. I was holding the black bag. Mia's fake sobs choked off. Her head snapped up. Her eyes, which were perfectly dry, narrowed. What now, Christy? She snapped. Her victim voice was gone. The real Mia was back. The crowd went totally silent. Sarah zoomed her camera in, first on Mia's angry face, then on my calm one. You said I was running, I said. My voice was quiet, but it carried in the silence. I wasn't. I just forgot something. I held the bag with one hand. With the other, I slowly pulled down the zipper. A zip. The sound was like a scream in the quiet room. The crowd leaned in. What was it? Another beautiful dress. Pulled it out. It wasn't beautiful. It was ugly. It was the stained, blotchy, gray and pink veil. The crowd gasped. It looked like a dirty rag. It looked like trash. It was my wedding veil, twisted into a nightmare. Mia's face didn't just go pale. It went white. White. She wasn't just looking at a dress. She was looking at her own ghost. My sister. She's a very good storyteller, I said. Maria, my ally, was suddenly at my side, pressing the auctioneer's microphone into my hand. My voice boomed through the room. She loves to talk about her feelings, about her pain. I held up the horrible stained dress. But she forgot to bring her notes. So I brought them for her. I pointed to the first angry, black word stitched onto the veil. This word right here. I said, holding it up for Sarah's camera. This is boring. That's what she wrote. About me. In her secret notebook. No, Mia screamed. It was a real scream this time. A raw animal sound. That's a lie. That's private. It was private, I said, my voice as cold as ice. Until you wore my wedding dress to an airport. Until you charged my card for $5,000. Until you came in here and called me a monster. I turned, walking the stage, showing the dress to everyone. This isn't a dress. I call it the receipt. It's the proof. It's all the quiet things she's been saying my whole life. I walked right to the edge of the stage, right to where Sarah was filming. The crowd could see the words now. Stitched in thick black thread. This word. I said, my voice shaking with a rage I had held in for 20 years. This one is pathetic. And this one, jealous. And this one, my personal favorite, useless. Mia was trying to climb onto the stage, clawing at the curtains, but a big security guard stepped in front of her. She's lying, Mia shrieked. She's a liar. Am I? Said. Am I lying about this? I turned back to the crowd, back to the camera. And the $5,000. She didn't accidentally use my card. She stole it. And I didn't freeze her accounts. I couldn't. I took a deep, shuddering breath. She didn't just take $5,000. She took everything. She drained my entire business account. That's why I'm here. This collection, I pointed to the 4 dresses. It wasn't just for charity. It was to save my life. She left me with nothing. The ballroom was so quiet you could hear the ice melting in the glasses. Sarah's camera was right in my face, capturing the tears I didn't even know were falling. Mia was silent, frozen, her face white with pure, undiluted rage. She was beaten. She was exposed. I had won. The story was over. But then, a new voice. A sharp, cold voice from the back of the room. Enough! A woman in a perfect, expensive suit was standing up. You will stop this right now, Christy. You will stop embarrassing this family. My heart dropped into my stomach. My mother. The real boss had just entered the fight. My mother. Her voice wasn't loud. It was sharp. It was the voice that could stop me dead in my tracks from a room away. The one that always said, "Christy, don't be selfish," or "Christy, stop overreacting." She stood up from a table in the back. I hadn't even known she was here. She was in a perfect ice blue suit. Not a hair was out of place. She wasn't yelling. She was commanding. "Christy, that is enough." The whole room, 100 strangers, felt the chill. This was the woman who had taught Mia everything she knew. The change in Mia was instant. It was like a light switch. The white-hot rage on her face vanished, replaced by a smug, tiny smile. She relaxed. Her backup had arrived. The real boss was here to clean up her mess. She crossed her arms, the muddy dress hanging off her, and just watched me. She knew what was coming. We both did. My mother was about to do what she always did. She was going to fix it. She was going to erase my truth and paint her own perfect picture right over it. The crowd was frozen, watching the new show. My mother started walking down the aisle. Her heels clicked on the floor. Blick, 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 like a clock ticking down. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice smooth like she was hosting a party. "I do apologize for my older daughter. She has always been very creative, very emotional." She was telling them I was crazy. "This is a private family matter. A simple misunderstanding that Christy has blown completely out of proportion. She's not well. Not well." She was telling 500 people I was mentally unstable. I felt the microphone get heavy in my hand. I couldn't speak. My throat just closed. This was it. This was the nightmare. It wasn't Mia. It was her. It was always her. She was the one who decided I was too much, and Mia was just enough. She was the one who had convinced me my whole life that my feelings were wrong, that my reactions were the problem, not their actions. I looked at the crowd. Their faces were confused. They were starting to believe her. After everything I'd shown them, my own mother was undoing it all with just a few quiet, perfectly chosen words. "Excuse me." It was Maria. She stepped right in front of me, taking the microphone from my frozen hand. She wasn't scared of my mother. She was a woman who fought monsters for a living. "Ma'am," Maria said, her voice ringing with power, "I run this shelter. Family matter is a phrase I hear every single day. It's the words people use to hide the worst things." My mother stopped. Her perfect smile twitched. This was not part of her plan. She had never met someone like Maria. Maria was my ally. She was my advocate. "You're right about one thing," Maria continued, pointing at my mother with the microphone. "This is emotional. It's emotional that your daughter's pain just raised over $50,000 for women who have nothing." The crowd gasped. Then a few people started to clap. "So no, we will not stop. We will not be quiet. And you are not apologizing for Christy. You should be apologizing to her." My mother's face went from ice blue to blood red. "How dare you?" she whispered, her voice shaking with rage. "How dare I?" Maria laughed, a short, sharp sound. "I dare because I'm not afraid of you." My mother was cornered. Sarah the reporter was filming her, not me. She was trapped. So she did what she always did. She found someone else to blame. I turned. But she didn't look at me. She looked at Mia. "This is your fault," she hissed, her voice low, but the microphone picked it up. "You were supposed to be perfect. You couldn't even handle this. You're a mess." Mia's smug smile evaporated. She looked like she'd been shot. This was it. This was the secret I'd known my whole life. I was the difficult one, and Mia was the perfect one. My whole life my job was to be the problem, and Mia's job was to be the prize. And now, for the first time, Mia had failed. She had failed at being perfect. And my mother couldn't forgive it. "You," my mother said, pointing at Mia, "are a disappointment." Mia just stared, her mouth open. She had never, ever heard that word aimed at her. The golden child had just been melted down. I didn't need to say another word. I had won. But it didn't feel like winning. Felt awful. Felt like watching a building collapse. Sarah's camera was still rolling, capturing the whole, ugly, beautiful truth. The crowd was silent. They weren't just watching a drama. They were witnessing a verdict. My mother, realizing what she had just said on a hot mic, looked horrified. She had finally told the truth at the worst possible time. She turned, her face a mask of fury, and stalked out of the ballroom. The room was silent for a beat. Then a single person started clapping. Then another. And another. Soon the entire ballroom was on their feet, applauding. Not for me. Not for the dresses. They were applauding for the truth. Maria put her arm around me. "It's over," she whispered. But as I looked at the doorway, I saw Mia. She wasn't crying. She wasn't looking at my mother's retreating back. She was looking at me. Her face was no longer smug or angry. It was empty. It was a look I had never seen before. And that right there was scarier than any scream. The applause in the ballroom felt like it was coming from miles away. It was a roar, but all I could see was the silence. Mia. She was still standing at the foot of the stage, in her ruined, muddy dress. My mother was gone. My father was, I assumed, with her. The crowd was on my side. But Mia. She just looked at me. That empty, hollow, terrifying look. It was like I was looking at a doll whose strings had been cut. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just turned. And with a strange, broken dignity, she walked out of the ballroom. Not out the main doors. Through a side exit. She just vanished. The next few days were the strangest of my life. My phone, which had nearly melted from my family's attacks, went completely silent. No angry texts from my mom. No sobbing voicemails from Mia. Not even a single confused message from my dad. The war was over and it was followed by nothing. This silence was worse than the screaming. When they were screaming, I knew what they were doing. But this quiet. This was the sound of something I couldn't see. It felt like I was standing in the middle of a calm ocean, just knowing the shark was circling somewhere underneath. But the rest of the world. It was loud. Sarah the reporter's live stream went viral. The Gala Showdown was the title on her blog. It was everywhere. My phone wasn't silent because of my family. It was ringing. With orders. So many orders. Women were emailing me, calling my studio, sending messages. "I saw your story. I need armor too. Can you make me a reclamation dress?" My little studio, my attic sanctuary, was suddenly the hottest design house in the city. My pain, my humiliation. It had become my brand. I wasn't just saved. I was wanted. A work. I hired Anna, the jeweler, full-time. I hired 2 seamstresses from the shelter's job program. We were making armor for women who had been pushed aside, just like me. But every time the studio door buzzed, I jumped. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was waiting for my mother to show up with a lawyer. I was waiting for Mia to slash my tires. But nothing. Just more orders. Just more success. The quiet from my family was a wound that wouldn't close. What were they planning? Then, 1 week after the gala, I found it. It wasn't a text. It wasn't a call. It was a plain white envelope, slipped under my studio door. No stamp. Someone had been here. My heart hammered against my ribs. I opened it with shaking hands. It wasn't a lawsuit. It wasn't a threat. It was a single line of neat, familiar handwriting. My father's handwriting. Sunday. Dinner. Your mother's request. Summons. Not a question. My first instinct was to burn it. Maria said, "Don't go, Christy. It's a trap." Anna said, "Lock the door." They were right. But I knew they were wrong. This was different. My mother asking. Not demanding. I looked at the note. Had to know. I had to see what was left after the fire. I texted my dad's number. 1 word. "Where?" The reply came back in 1 second. My heart stopped. "Your studio." 7 p.m. My studio. They were offering to come to my territory. Oh, this was new. This was a surrender. All day Sunday I didn't clean. I didn't buy food. I just sat at my grandmother's old sewing machine. I worked on a simple mended coat for the shelter. It was just me, in my space, waiting. At 7 p.m. on the dot, the buzzer rang. I let them in. My stomach was in knots. The three of them walked up the stairs and into my studio. My father, my mother, and Mia. They looked small. In the bright, white, professional lights of my workspace, they weren't the giants who had haunted my life. They were just three people who looked tired. My mother, in a simple sweater, not a power suit. My father, his eyes on the floor. Mia. She was wearing a plain gray sweatshirt, her hair pulled back. Her eyes were puffy. She looked like she hadn't slept in a week. My mother was the first to speak. She didn't apologize. She just looked around at the new dresses on the forms, the bolts of rich fabric, the full order books on my desk. She touched the sleeve of a powerful emerald green gown I was making for a judge. "It's beautiful, Christy," she said. Her voice was quiet. Just fit. My father walked over and looked at the blue ribbon I'd won in high school, which I still had pinned to a corkboard. He just touched it and said nothing. Mia. Mia didn't look at the dresses. She didn't look at me. She walked slowly into the center of the room. I looked lost. She walked past my new work, past Anna's jewelry bench. She walked right over to the corner to Matilda, my grandmother's old dress form. Then she turned to me. Her face was pale. Her voice was a tiny, broken whisper. Did you keep it?" I was confused. "Keep what, Mia?" She flinched like the sound of her name hurt. "The dress," she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "The receipt dress." I was stunned. Why would she ask that? Did she want to destroy it? "Why?" Yes. Her voice cracked. Because I need you to make me one." My blood went cold. What did she just say? What? "I need you to make one. For me." But with her words. My head spun. With whose words? Mia looked up, and for the first time I saw the real raw pain in her eyes. "With Mom's words," she whispered. "All the things she said to me. You're a disappointment. You're a mess. You failed." I wrote them all down. I just stared at her. My sister. The golden child. She was asking me to make her a dress of her pain. A dress covered in our mother's words. Disappointment. Mess. Failure. It was the most twisted, honest, and heartbreaking thing she had ever said. In that single moment, the whole story of my life changed. I wasn't the only victim. I was just the first one. My whole life I was in the shadows. But Mia. She was trapped in a golden cage. And my mother had just told her she wasn't perfect enough to live there anymore. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just looked at my mother. Her face was white. She had heard it. She finally understood what her words, her perfect standards, had done. My father just stared at the floor. No one apologized. No one hugged. The silence in the room wasn't war anymore. It was just space. Empty, awkward, and real. And for the first time we all had to stand in it. After they left, I didn't feel like I'd won. I just felt quiet. It wasn't redemption. It was just recognition. And that was enough. That night I stayed in my studio. The moon was bright, and it lit up my grandmother's old dress form, Matilda. She looked like a queen standing there in the dark. For so many years I had waited. I waited for them to see me. I waited for them to hand me the spotlight. I waited for them to finally say, "You are good enough." But I stopped waiting. Picked up my own scissors. I built the whole collection myself. I learned that my power was never in their hands. It was in mine. And it always had been. This story was for you. It was for every single person out there who has ever felt invisible in their own family. For every quiet one, every practical one, every good one who has to hold everyone else together. If you have ever been told to be smaller so that someone else could shine brighter, I see you. Your pain is real. Your story matters. And your power isn't in waiting for them to change. It's in picking up your own tools and building your own life, stitch by stitch. If you felt that, if Christie's story hit your heart, please hit that like button. It tells the world that these stories of quiet strength need to be told. And if you have ever had to set a boundary that changed everything, tell us your story in the comments. We are a community here. We read every single one. Subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear that they are not alone. Because sometimes walking away isn't losing. It's rebuilding. And we have so many more stories of quiet revenge waiting for you.